y'all, it's Jason with Our Music Experience on day 2 of the DIY project, building a portable stage from a band. A couple lessons learned. One, I'm using a metal cutting blade on my 7 1/4 saw. That's working out okay, but the edges are somewhat square and it's leaving a little bit of gaps. It's a little bit trickier to weld. I have to file it, a lot of manual work there. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I use to kind of keep those edges square. It should speed up the process as well. Another lesson learned, got my knee pads, picked those up today, $7. Absolutely key when you're crawling around the garage floor or any concrete floor, any floor for that matter. Not as young as I used to be, and it just beats up my knees. So pick these up, $7. Should be a much better day. So let's get started on cutting some more stuff up. Okay, so let me show you what I've done, and I do this a lot with wood when I really need a true square. I'm cutting multiple pieces and all that stuff. Go ahead and set up a guide. Now the tricky part is that, you know, we're cutting multiple pieces at the same time. It's going to save us time in the cuts. But as you can see, we got multiple lengths down there. I would actually have loved to have had this guide on the other side, but the problem is when you get your saw like that, you really don't have much distance to get that guide to lay flat, and you have nothing to clamp it on there. If I was working on a big table, you know, I probably would have been a little bit easier choice, because then this way as I'm cutting, these pieces can just kind of fall off as I'm going along. Now I got to prop them up and kind of make sure nothing gets jammed and kind of basically squeezes the blade as I'm cutting through those. But it's a couple different things. One, get yourself a decent T-square like yay, so that you can make sure you got a good nice measurement. Two, and you know how I'm doing that, I'm just basically making sure that this line is nice and square, and I go ahead and just run that alongside there. You don't have to worry about too much out of deformity in metal, because it is metal, it's not like wood. The other thing is, with the saw unplugged, of course, I like to get in there and really make sure that my blade is hitting to the left side of the point, because I want to keep these sections. So anyways, that's that. The other thing is too, is that, so why am I doing all this? Yesterday when I was cutting through all this stuff, I realized even though I'm marking this up with a nice red line, as soon as those sparks start to fly, I can barely see it. So I definitely need something to serve as a guide, and also to keep those pieces square. Now this is only possible because for a couple different reasons. One, I don't have an endless supply of metal. So when I did this design, I actually calculated everything out, so I know that I need, per little piece here, I need a 72, 72, and 60s, or 34s, 31s. All these pieces go into 12-foot sections, and that's how I'm able to basically know exactly what I need to cut per piece. Without that calculation, I'd probably be winding up with some really oddball pieces at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and give us the cuts, and we'll see where we're at here in a little bit. Alright, so I got the cut done, got all the way through, and I don't know about you, but that looks pretty darn square. So we should have some good edges going forward on those pieces over there. That'll allow me to weld a lot better too. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up a lot more of those other pieces that we were talking about on here. But in basically one pass I was able to cut 6 pieces, so that's a speed improvement and an accuracy improvement, so I'll take it. Alright, so all done with cutting up all those pieces for the doors. They're all right there, all labeled, all deburred, all filed, all square, and that took about just a little bit more than an hour, maybe about an hour and a half. That definitely went a lot faster using that technique. One thing is though that grinding wheel, that'll get pretty hot, so what you end up finding out is that if you're sitting in there cutting for too long, you'll end up taking off some material from the first pieces in the row. So probably ought to not sit there too long, maybe only stack up 4 at a time. The other thing is, just so you guys are aware, this is what I use to deburr. This is a pretty handy tool. You can get these at Home Depot. You just use that to deburr the inside. Of course, it's a new file, so that definitely is helpful. Other than that, all those pieces are cut. Make sure you wear your protective gear, your gloves, and all that stuff. Sparks really do kick up when you're using that grinding wheel. If I had the choice, I would obviously use a bandsaw and cut it clean. It'd be a lot easier. But if all you have is a circular saw, and also, by the way, I should probably mention, that saw is an old saw, so I'm not using my good one. I'm using my old one. It's already been worn out pretty good. I think it ends up melting a little bit of the plastic when you're grinding away with that grind wheel and that metal, so just keep that in mind. Just another thing too is those little brackets over there are really just wood clamps that I use to hold the pieces all together. And I think that's it. I got to use those. I have those C-clamps. And that's about it. Alright, so I will get back to you when we are ready to start welding up those doors.